Importing exotic animals. Common mistakes to avoid pox, including one death. Another example of a disease that was introduced into the United States through the importation of exotic animals is SARS. SARS is a respiratory disease that was first identified in China in 2002. The disease spread rapidly throughout Asia and eventually made its way to the United States. In total, there were 8,098 cases of SARS reported worldwide, including 774 deaths. It's important to note that not all exotic animals carry diseases. However, it's important to be aware of the potential risks and to take precautions to minimize the risk of introducing new diseases into the country. Another risk associated with importing exotic animals is the quarantine requirements. When you import an exotic animal into the United States, it will need to be quarantined for a period of time. This is to ensure that the animal does not have any diseases that could be harmful to other animals or humans. The length of the quarantine period will vary depending on the species of animal. For example, the quarantine period for a dog is 10 days, while the quarantine period for a monkey is 6 months. It's important to be aware of the quarantine requirements before you import an exotic animal. If you don't comply with the quarantine requirements, you could face fines or even imprisonment. There are also a number of legal risks associated with importing exotic animals. For example, some species of animals are protected by the Endangered Species Act. This means that it is illegal to import or export these animals without a permit. In addition, some states have their own laws and regulations regarding the importation of exotic animals. It's important to be aware of these laws and regulations before you import an exotic animal. Finally, there are also a number of ethical concerns associated with importing exotic animals. Some people believe that it is wrong to keep wild animals in captivity. They argue that these animals are not adapted to living in human homes and that they can suffer from a variety of health problems as a result of being kept in captivity. Others believe that it is possible to keep exotic animals in captivity humanely. They argue that these animals can be provided with a safe and stimulating environment in which they can thrive. Ultimately, the decision of whether or not to import an exotic animal is a personal one. However, it's important to be aware of the risks involved before you make a decision. If you're still considering importing an exotic animal, there are a few things you can do to minimize the risks involved. First, do your research. Make sure you know everything you can about the species of animal you're interested in importing. This includes its native habitat, diet, and social behavior. Second, find a reputable breeder or importer. A reputable breeder or importer will be familiar with the legal requirements for importing exotic animals and will be able to provide you with the necessary documentation. Third, make sure you have a suitable enclosure for your animal. The enclosure should be large enough for the animal to move around freely and should provide it with a variety of enrichment activities. Fourth, quarantine your animal for the required period of time. This will help to ensure that the animal does not have any diseases that could be harmful to other animals or humans. Finally, follow all of the legal requirements for importing exotic animals. This includes obtaining the necessary permits and licenses and following the quarantine requirements. By following these tips, you can help to minimize the risks involved in importing exotic animals. Thanks for watching. I hope this video has been helpful.